Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today, I am going to share with you one of the most inspiring, emotional, and powerful life stories of our time. This is not just the story of a man. It is the story of dreams, struggles, pain, hope, hard work, rejection, belief, and victory. This is the story of a boy who was born in a small house in India with very little money, no mobile phone, no laptop, and sometimes not even a proper chair to sit and study. But today, he is one of the most powerful CEOs in the world. He's the man who leads Google and Alphabet, two of the most influential companies in the world. This is the story of Sundar Pichai. Many people dream, but only a few turn their dreams into reality. Many want success, but very few have the patience, humility, and courage to walk the long, difficult road that leads to greatness. Sundar Pichai's story is proof that you don't need to be born rich to become successful. You don't need to have expensive clothes or luxury things. What you really need is a burning desire to learn, a never-give-up attitude, and a humble heart. So, if you are someone who is struggling in life, if you feel like giving up, if you think the world is unfair, then this story is for you. Listen till the end, because this might just be the most important video you watch today. This is not just a biography. This is a guide, a lesson, a light for anyone who is walking through the dark. This story is perfect for learning English because it's simple, inspiring, and packed with real-life lessons. As we go through Sundar Pichai's journey, you'll hear everyday words and phrases that are easy to understand, but also powerful. You'll learn how to describe challenges, success, and motivation, all in simple English. Plus, the story will help you improve your listening skills while keeping you engaged with a real, exciting life story. So not only will you be inspired, but you'll also be improving your English every step of the way. Chapter 1: The Humble Beginnings. Let us go back to the year 1972, to a crowded, noisy city called Madurai in the southern part of India. In this city, on June 10, 1972, a boy named Pichai Sundararajan was born into a small, middle-class family. The world knows him today as Sundar Pichai. His father, Raghunatha Pichai, was an electrical engineer who worked hard every day in a British company called GEC. He repaired electrical parts, worked with circuits and designs, and tried to give his family a better future. His mother, Lakshmi, was a stenographer, someone who types and writes shorthand, but she left her job to take care of her children full-time. Now imagine this: Sundar's house had no television, no refrigerator, and they lived in a small two-room apartment in Ashoknagar, Chennai, which was known as Madras at the time. One room was a living room during the day, and at night, it became the bedroom of the whole family. They didn't have a car. They used a scooter to go anywhere. There was only one fan, and during summer, the house became extremely hot. But they never complained. They were happy, simple people. Sundar shared his room with his younger brother. Sometimes, his relatives also came to stay in the same house. The space was small, but the dreams inside that small house were big. Sundar's childhood was filled with questions. He was always curious. He wanted to know how things worked, how a telephone works, how electricity travels, how machines are built. He asked his father many questions, and his father always answered with patience. This is where Sundar first learned the value of knowledge and learning. Every evening, his father would come home from work and talk to Sundar about what he did in the factory. Sundar listened carefully. He didn't understand everything, but he learned to think like an engineer. He learned that behind every great thing in the world, there is hard work, discipline, and design. Now listen to this powerful part. They got a telephone at home only when Sundar was 12 years old. It was a simple rotary phone. You had to turn the dial to call someone. And here's something very surprising. Sundar had a photographic memory. He could remember every single phone number he dialed, even after calling it just once. That was the first moment when his family realized Sundar was special. Even though he was very intelligent, Sundar was never proud or arrogant. He was quiet, polite, and shy. He was the kind of boy who sat in the back of the class but always scored the highest marks. He studied in Jauhar Vidyalaya, a school that was not fancy or elite, but it had good teachers. Sundar loved maths and science. He liked solving problems. He was not someone who learned only to pass exams, he learned because he enjoyed learning. Now, you may ask, did he have tuition? Expensive books? No. He studied with what he had. He borrowed books from others. He worked harder than most students. And he never wasted time. When he grew older, he studied at a school called Vanavani, inside the IIT Madras campus. He saw brilliant students and professors there, and he started dreaming, one day, I want to go to a big college too. But dreams are not enough. Dreams must be followed by effort. After years of hard work and sleepless nights, Sundar Pichai finally made his parents proud by getting admission to IIT Kharagpur, one of the top engineering colleges in India. This was a big moment, not just for him, but for his entire family. Imagine this, a young boy, shy and humble, coming from a small house with no air conditioner, no computer, and very little money, now walking into one of the most respected colleges in the country. It was a new world for him, big classrooms, brilliant minds, competitive students, and highly experienced professors. But here's something you should know, even though he got in, life did not become easy. In fact, it became even tougher. Sundar chose to study metallurgical engineering, the study of metals, materials, and how they work in industries. Now you may ask, why metallurgy? Why not computer science? The truth is, Sundar was not from a rich family. He didn't know much about computers at that time. In fact, in his early IIT days, he had never even touched a real computer. But he was curious. He listened. He observed. He started learning about programming and coding in his own time. He read books that others ignored. He would sit in the computer labs for hours, watching how things worked. At IIT, he met students who came from big cities, rich families, and modern schools. They had better clothes, more confidence, and strong English. Sundar, in comparison, was soft-spoken, and his English was still developing. Did he feel small? Yes. Did he give up? Never. He didn't speak much, but he listened more than anyone. He was not loud, but his thoughts were sharp. He didn't try to compete with others, he tried to compete with himself. Sundar worked silently. While others were wasting time partying, Sundar was reading books, solving problems, and thinking deeply that he never tried to show off. He was focused on one thing, growth. His professors noticed his talent. They saw that Sundar had something special, a calm mind and deep intelligence. One professor even said, Sundar Pichai is one of the most promising students I've ever seen. During his final year at IIT, Sundar applied for a scholarship to study in the United States of America. His dream was to do a master's degree from a top university abroad. He applied to Stanford University, one of the best universities in the world. And guess what? He got selected, but now came the biggest challenge: money. The flight ticket from India to the USA cost almost $1,000 at that time, which was more than his father's entire yearly salary. Just imagine the situation. They had no credit cards, no sponsors, no internet banking, no online fundraising, just one simple Indian family trying to support their son's dream. What do you think happened? His father didn't think twice. He took a loan, used up all his savings, and borrowed money from relatives, because he believed, if I invest in my son's education, it will change his life. That is what great parents do. They sacrifice everything for their children. So one day, with one suitcase, a heart full of hope, and tears in his mother's eyes, Sundar Pichai took his first flight ever, from Chennai to California. He was going to a country he had never seen before, a culture he didn't understand, and a life that was completely different from what he had known. When Sundar reached Stanford University, he was shocked. Everything was so different: the people, the food, the buildings, the teaching style, even the silence in the libraries. In India, he was used to crowded streets and noisy classrooms. In America, students walked with headphones, drank coffee during lectures, and asked professors tough questions without fear. At first, Sundar felt like an outsider. He didn't understand many things. People spoke fast English. He missed Indian food. He missed his family. He missed home. And do you know what he did when he first saw a computer with internet at Stanford? He just stared at it, because he couldn't believe such technology existed. In his early life, he had no access to internet. But here at Stanford, he had 24/7 access to modern computers, labs, and world-class professors. He knew this was his chance. So he studied day and night. He asked questions. He made notes. He sat in the front row. He learned everything, from programming to networking to computer systems. While other students partied, Sundar worked silently. And slowly, something started to change. He began to understand the American system. He made new friends. His English became better, his confidence grew, and he never forgot who he was or where he came from. Even when he had very little money, Sundar would save his small student stipend carefully. Once, he couldn't buy a backpack he liked because it was too expensive. So he waited, worked part-time, and bought it later, because he knew every dollar counted. After completing his master's in material sciences and engineering from Stanford, Sundar had many options. He could have gone back to India. He could have joined a regular company. But he wanted to go higher. He wanted to work in Silicon Valley, the place where all tech legends live and work. Apple, Microsoft, Google, Intel, Facebook, all were born there. Getting a job in Silicon Valley was not easy. Sundar worked for a few companies first. He joined Applied Materials. Then he went on to do an MBA from the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. At Wharton, he was named a Siebel Scholar and a Palmer Scholar, titles given to the top students of the class. Now imagine this: a boy who didn't have a phone till he was 12, now standing in classrooms where future billionaires and CEOs studied. And still, he stayed humble. This is what made Sundar different: he never forgot his roots. Sundar Pichai was now standing at the doors of the most powerful companies in Silicon Valley. His qualifications were excellent: a master's in engineering from Stanford, an MBA from Wharton with top honors, and real work experience at companies like Applied Materials and McKinsey. But there was one thing he had in his heart that others didn't: hunger, a hunger to build, to learn, and to create something useful for the world. It was the year 2004, and Sundar had just applied for a job at a growing tech company called Google. At that time, Google was already known for its search engine, but it wasn't as huge as it is today. They had fewer products, fewer employees, and fewer offices. Sundar didn't know that this one interview would change his entire life. He prepared hard. He studied computer systems, logic problems, and case studies. He knew he was not a typical programmer, but what he had was clarity, strategy, and the ability to understand what users need. On the day of the interview, he entered Google's office, which was not very flashy at that time. He was calm, focused. They gave him technical problems, he solved them logically. They asked him product questions, he gave unique insights. They asked him, "What would you improve about Google?" He said, "Let's make the homepage simpler. Let's build tools around the search engine. Let's think beyond." He didn't say what they wanted to hear, he said what he truly believed. And that impressed everyone. Sundar got the job. He joined as a product manager, a role where you don't just code, you also think. You solve problems. You plan the future of the product. And this role was perfect for him. When Sundar joined Google, he was quiet. Other managers were loud and confident. They had big egos. They spoke in meetings to show their power. Sundar? He spoke only when needed, but when he did, people listened. He was given a simple job: work on Google's search toolbar, the small bar that lets you search Google from your browser without opening the main page. It was not a glamorous job. No one thought it was important, but Sundar saw the future. He realized that if people used Google directly from their browser, they would stop using other search engines. Google would become faster, easier, and more natural. So he worked day and night to make the toolbar better. He studied how users searched, how fast the results came, and what made the experience smooth. He focused on user behavior, what people really wanted, not just what engineers wanted to build. He improved the toolbar until it became a major reason for Google's early success. As Sundar was working, he saw a big problem. Most people were using Microsoft's Internet Explorer or Mozilla Firefox to browse the internet. But those browsers were slow, clunky, and full of bugs. He thought, why not build our own browser? This was a huge risk. Google was a search company, not a browser company. Building a browser would take years. Many senior leaders said it was a bad idea, but Sundar believed in speed, simplicity, and control. He said, if we control the browser, we can improve the full user experience. And if we don't build it, someone else will. Still, no one was ready to fund his idea. So what did he do? He kept pushing. He made presentations. He showed prototypes. He convinced one team member at a time. He created a small team and started building, in secret,